Chapter 5. Balthasar the king made a great supper for his 1,000 nobles, and there was wine before the 1,000. And Balthasar, drinking, gave orders as he tasted the wine that they should bring the gold and silver vessels which Nebuchadnezzar his father had brought forth from the temple of Jerusalem, that the king and his nobles and his mistresses and his concubines should drink out of them. So the gold and silver vessels were brought which Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple of God in Jerusalem. And the king and his nobles and his mistresses and his concubines should drink out of them. They drank wine and praised the gods of gold and of silver and of brass and of iron and of wood and of stone. In the same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote in front of the lamp on the plaster of the wall of the king's house. And the king saw the knuckles of the hand that wrote. Then the king's countenance changed and his thoughts troubled him. And the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one another. And the king cried aloud to bring in the magicians, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. And he said to the wise men of Babylon, Whosoever shall read this writing and make known to me the interpretation shall be clothed in scarlet, and there shall be a golden chain upon his neck, and he shall be the third ruler in my kingdom. Then came in all the king's wise men, but they could not read the writing, nor make known the interpretation to the king. And King Balthasar was troubled, and his countenance changed upon him, and his nobles were troubled with him. Then the queen came into the banquet house and said, O king, live forever. Let not thy thoughts trouble thee, and let not thy countenance be changed. There is a man in thy kingdom in whom is the Spirit of God, and in the days of thy father watchfulness and understanding were found in him. And King Nebuchadnezzar thy father made him chief of the enchanters, magicians, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. For there is an excellent spirit in him, and a sense of understanding in him, interpreting dreams as he does, and answering hard questions and solving difficulties. It is Daniel, and the king gave him the name of Balthasar. Now let him be called, and he shall tell the interpretation of the writing. Then Daniel was brought in before the king, and the king said to Daniel, Art thou Daniel of the children of the captivity of Judea, which the king my father brought? I have heard concerning thee that the Spirit of God is in thee, and that watchfulness and understanding and excellent wisdom have been found in thee. And now the wise men, magicians, and soothsayers have come in before me to read the writing and make known to me the interpretation, but they could not tell it to me. And I have heard concerning thee that thou art able to make interpretations. Now then, if thou shalt be able to read the writing, and make known to me the interpretation of it, thou shalt be clothed with purple, and there shall be a golden chain upon thy neck, and thou shalt be third ruler in my kingdom. And Daniel said before the king, Let thy gifts be to thyself, and give the present of thine house to another. But I will read the writing, and I will make known to thee the interpretation of it. O king, the Most High God gave to thy father Nebuchadnezzar a kingdom and majesty and honor and glory. And by reason of the majesty which he gave to him, all nations, tribes, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would he slew, and whom he would he smote, and whom he would he exalted, and whom he would he abased. But when his heart was lifted up, and his spirit was emboldened to act proudly, he was deposed from his royal throne, and his honor was taken from him. And he was driven forth from men, and his heart was given him after the nature of a wild beast, and his dwelling was with the wild asses, and they fed him with grass as an ox. And his body was bathed with the dew of heaven, until he knew that the Most High God is Lord of the kingdom of men, and will give it to whomsoever he shall please. And thou accordingly, his son, O Balthasar, hast not humbled thine heart before God. Knowest thou all this? And thou hast been exalted against the Lord God of heaven, and they have brought before thee the vessels of his house. And thou and thy nobles and thy mistresses and thy concubines have drunk wine out of them. And thou hast praised the gods of gold and silver and brass and iron and wood and stone, which see not, and which hear not, and know not. And the God in whose hand are thy breath, and all thy ways hast thou not glorified. Therefore from his presence has been set forth the knuckle of a hand, and he has ordered the writing. And this is the ordered writing: Main, Thekel, Fares. Main, God has measured thy kingdom and finished it. Thekel, it has been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Fares, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Then Belteshazzar commanded, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet, and put the golden chain about his neck, and claimed concerning him that he was the third ruler in the kingdom. In the same night was Balthasar the Chaldean king slain. And Darius the Mede succeeded to the kingdom, being 62 years old.